It's Kathy Taylor and Jill Kebb, founders of Plant Life Journey. And those of you who know me and know about my journey, this is where it all started with Jill and Kathy. I went on their retreat, which was amazing, life-changing. And that's why I have a YouTube channel. And I started documenting my journey the day I pulled out of the driveway of the retreat house in April. So what we're going to do today or tonight is we're going to hear how whole food plant-based lifestyle has changed or has benefited their lives, Jill and Kathy. So we'll just give you a little bit of their story, and then we're going to talk a little bit about their retreat and whatever else they want to talk about and share. But let's start with Jill. Why don't we start with you, since you're first on my screen, and just tell us, what got you into whole food plant-based, maybe how long you've been doing it, and how have you benefited from it?
Okay, well, thanks, Jackie, for having us on your platform. We are just so impressed with everything you've done since you've left us, and I just love watching your videos, and it's really so fun to see your journey and see your changes, and reminds me too of my own journey. You said something in a video like, I want it now. I didn't expect to see the results today. It's just so hilarious because it's like we all want it now. But how many years and years do we eat a certain way? And, it takes time. That's the unfortunate reality. It takes, Kathy and I just went to a global leadership summit, and they said every choice you make is a vote for the person you want to be. And this is true with food. Everything I put in my mouth is a vote for the person that I want to be. And I grew up eating, unfortunately, what my mom thought was okay, which was, at the time, bologna sandwiches on white bread and a Hostess product and a bag of Fritos or, chips and maybe some chocolate milk or whatever. When I think—
Oh, that all sounds really good.
Sounds like my lunches.
To me today, that doesn't even sound like food. It sounds like empty lab calorie. I don't know. I was very, I don't know. I got pretty obsessed with food early on in my life. And I feel like I kind of used it to be my friend and my consoler through thick and thin. The food was always there for me, and bad food is really easy to get. It's just everywhere. And I sort of became addicted. I became addicted and in my mind obsessed with my weight.
Sorry, I forgot to record, but keep going. You're okay.
So I guess I spent a lot of years not feeling good about myself, my body, my food, and not knowing how to fix it. And tried a lot of diets, a lot of, just a lot of diets, a lot of like short-term gains, but also at some point feeling like I could not get out of this loop, this circle of like, I could maybe start my diet on a Monday and it just didn't even work until, Wednesday. It was just, the exercise wasn't working, the diets weren't working. It was depressing. It was really depressing. And I probably had some gains and losses along the way, just trying to manage it on my own. But it wasn't until I had sort of an intervention of sorts by a woman who she came to stay with us, and she was thin and older than me and had a lot of energy. And I was just pretty amazed that someone could run around my house with all this energy. And I saw what she was eating, and it wasn't what I had typically been eating. So she took me to bookstores, and the books were not about weight or diets and weight, and they were more about health. So I really started getting focused on, it just opened my world to what do my cells really want? What is my blood doing right now? How is my brain working? I want to be here for my children. Why am I so focused on my weight? What about my health? So I started making some mental shifts, and I also was at that time working a 12-step program for Overeaters Anonymous, which I guess we're not necessarily supposed to say that like publicly for anonymity's sake, but it's helped me a lot, the 12 steps, and it's just part of my story. So I could just say that the slow process of inviting my higher power in was very helpful, as well as the slow process of understanding the nutrients and the fiber and the importance of eating these, you know, beautiful, rich, colorful, antioxidant, phytochemical, you know, big, beautiful array of plant foods that we have at our disposal and that don't have marketing teams. There is no money in broccoli. You know, there's not a lot of TV ads for real food. And there are a lot of TV ads for every other kind of junk food out there, and a lot of glorifying in this culture of things that don't serve our body temple. So I've really come a long way personally, and I'm very grateful for that. I don't hate my body anymore. I mean, that was a while ago that left, but I can see desserts now being eaten around me and I can say no. That's like a miracle to me. There are certain times I couldn't do that. I mean, I would plan hour-long binges. I would, you know, throw food in the garbage and then go back and pull it out. I would hide food from myself. I would hide food from my family. I would eat in secret. I just did a lot of crazy things with food. Not really crazy, because I know a lot of people do those things. I think it's just in our culture, it's not really all that abnormal to even use food in that way. But it's so much better to be on this side of it. It's so much better to feel good. I feel good. So when I say no, and sometimes, and I'm not perfect, I will make exceptions to the rule. But I don't beat myself up about those. And I never call myself bad names. Like, you know, I used to just say, you're so stupid, or you're so fat, or why did you do that? Why did you make that choice? That was so dumb. Or once I started eating, it was very hard to stop. I could just eat a lot. I love to eat, and I still eat large quantities of food. And Kathy knows that, and people come to our retreat know that.
I know that. I
Yeah.
still remember when you said to me, at your retreat, you had a big bowl of fruit for the entire group. And it was a small group, I should say, that, you know, people might think 50 people, but we had like 8 people or something, or 5 people, whatever, 7 people, I don't remember. But, and I remember you said to me, I could eat that whole bowl of fruit, and it was for the whole table. And I'm like, really? You know, and so I always remember that. So,
Well,
and not everyone can see you, but Jill is very thin, not, you know, like a very healthy, thin body. Yes.
Well, yes. One of my go-to breakfasts would be a whole papaya with lime juice. I just love to eat. I could eat a whole papaya with lime, and that's one of my favorite breakfasts. But I do get excited about how food starts to taste different once you're on this journey, and you appreciate, you know, nature and its abundance and the beautiful symphony of what it is and how it serves us. And I want to appreciate that food. And the only way I'm going to appreciate it is if I, you know, don't partake as much as I used to also in that crappy junk lab food, high sugar, high fat combination food. So it's a process, and we are enjoying the process, and we are enjoying helping other people, you know, open their eyes to the assortment and the variety. It's beautiful how much, I mean, there's just so many great recipes. People have no idea if they're not into it, if they're not already on this path, or once you get started, as you're learning, it's like, wow, you could just Google, you know, any recipe and see a plant-based version.
It's amazing. This is like the best time now. And hopefully it's going to get easier and easier. But even though I went to a class with a chef of a restaurant or here in the villages in Florida, and they had a class, they do cooking classes, and they had a plant-based one, and I went to that one, and it was wonderful. But I don't think I could repeat many of the recipes because there was like oils and things, but it was delicious. It was definitely plant-based. And he said, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you couldn't do this. It was very difficult. Now you can go out to eat, and there are restaurants that will have a vegan meal or plant, and there's grocery stores now opening up, and of course the internet is just amazing. I can't believe I never knew that until I came back from your retreat, that how many videos there are, like vegan, plant-based cooking shows up the yin yang and cooking books. And I have to tell you one thing, and then I want to move on to Kathy, and then we'll talk some more. But I was thinking of you guys because I was at Barnes and Noble, which a lot of people know I hang out there. I've been hanging out there my whole life, pretty much my whole adult life. That's where I bring my computer. It's like a Starbucks. A lot of people know that. But I actually got out of my seat and I was browsing the cookbook section. I have never, ever, ever been in the cookbook section in a bookstore or a library in my life. And I'm like thinking to myself, these girls from the retreat need to know this. So yeah, so that's one way my life has changed. So, but thank you, Jill, for sharing that. And you'll have time to share some more in a little while. But Kathy, please tell us how you got into whole food plant-based and how it has affected your life.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to say great job being in the recipe book section. We know when you came to us for the retreat at the beginning, you self-proclaimed that you were not a cook and knew nothing. So I'm just so impressed, really, and inspired by you, Jacki, because you left that retreat and you just kept going and kept leveling up. And I mean, you've taken this to a whole another level as far as immersing yourself into really learning what it takes to change your eating habits, your cooking style, your shopping, everything. And you're putting it out there for everybody to see, which is great because I think you're inspiring a lot of people. So, when I, yeah, when I started this journey, really, I was inspired by somebody who was already on this journey and learned from that person, and that was Jill. I am so grateful to her because really, it took me a while to get on board. Like Jacki, you left our retreat and you've just been going like on this trajectory like this, and I went on a little seminar food thing. Well, I didn't go to it. It came to us at work, and Jill taught a seminar in 2002. And I went like this. And then all of a sudden I went like this, but it took me years to really like go, so, people, I think sometimes think it's this immediate thing or it gets flipped on immediately. And sometimes it is. Now, once I did decide this is what I'm going to do, I shot straight up because I went super all in, kind of like how you did. It just took me a really long time to start that. But I was experiencing a lot of health issues for several years, more probably brought on by stress in combination with the really terrible food that I was eating. And, I was working so many hours every day. And at the time that Jill taught the seminar, corporate lunch series that she taught, she and I were both pregnant, and she is only a few years older than me, really only 3, I think. And she was a month further along in her pregnancy, but looked so like fit and good. And I was with my first pregnancy and I just felt, like not great. It was just a combination of things. So she taught this information that just the science made so much sense to me. And that's kind of what gets me going when I hear the facts and I see the evidence. And there's just so much more of that now, even that supports how fiber is so good for you, and those animal products and dairy and just are not. It's not healthful. It's not promoting health, whereas fiber and whole foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, those are just supporting your health in such a way that it fills you, gives you energy. And I experienced that once I finally made the shift. Again, it took me a while. It required me to have a doctor's visit where I was having a lot of digestive issues, and the doctor, after a procedure, comes to me and says, well, we think that you have Crohn's, and we're going to tell you to drink Metamucil every day. And I share this in the retreat more in depth, but you need to drink Metamucil every day, and here's a medication that we're going to put you on. And my question was, well, can I just have more fiber, like through my meals? Can you just suggest to me how I might be able to do that with my food? And he looked at me, and I looked at him as an authority because, I didn't really know. And he was this doctor, gastroenterologist, and he looked at me and he said, no, you can't get it through food enough. Just take the Metamucil. And that was the first little trigger where I had already learned what I learned from Jill. And here it is a couple years later, maybe year and a half later. And I'm hearing this, and this doesn't compute. It would have computed maybe before I had that class with Jill, but now it was, no, that doesn't make sense. There's so much fiber in food, and I know that. And so I just looked at him and I went, And then he said, and then take this medication. And I said, well, what's that for? And he said, well, we think you have Crohn's, and this should help, and we'll find out once you're taking it. And I said, well, how long do I need to take that medication? And he said, well, it's indefinite. You would just take that, forever. If it works, you'll just keep taking that. And I didn't like that idea either. I was only 34 years old at the time and didn't really feel like that made sense to me. But also, I had a 1-year-old at home. I was working a lot of hours. The food that I was eating was terrible food. I would grab cookies that were set out on the counter at work because I wasn't taking lunch, or I wasn't preparing meals for myself that were healthy. So I would eat what I could as fast as I could, wherever I could get it. McDonald's was really close by, lots of fast food restaurants. And I just thought that was okay because that was the culture. That was what other people at work did. That's kind of what we were raised to do, marketed to. So it took a couple more years of health struggles, inflammation, but the digestive issues were a big thing, sinus headaches, sinus infections twice a year. From when I'd have allergies, it would ultimately turn into an infection at least once to twice a year. So I'd be on antibiotics. So when I finally made the change, it was triggered by, ultimately, I had a traumatic injury to my face, and I just had to stop. I had to literally physically just stop everything that I was doing. I couldn't work. I couldn't care for what I had now, 2 children, an 18-month-old and a almost 5-year-old at the time. And I just had to stop, and I had to just sit there because of the procedures I was having. I had to just sit there with my head down, and I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't read. I just sat there. And that's when all this information started coming back that I had learned from Jill. And I really had to think about how precious this body is. I couldn't control what happened to me physically in that accident, but I could control physically what was happening to my body through the food that I was feeding it. And I knew that, but I just didn't ever accept it, like really sit and accept that that was my responsibility to take care of this body. That was really just a gift, right? Like we get one, and then we have to choose how we're going to treat that and how we take care of it. So that was when I finally had that understanding. It was a time where I was growing in my faith, and I was growing in my understanding of food. And I just went all in at that point. So that's where my trajectory finally went from flatline to shooting straight up. And I just ate a lot of fresh, whole food. Salads were not going to really keep me on track, but It's not just salads. And I think that's a misunderstanding a lot of people have, is that, oh, you have to eat salads for all your meals. And you don't. Salads are good. And I love salads too, but I also like potatoes and oatmeal and, whole grains. And I don't know, just there's an abundance of choices out there. Pardon?
Barbecue jackfruit.
Barbecue jackfruit. That took me a few years to learn how to make that. But this is all a learning process, right? Like, we learned for so many years to eat the way that we did. Jill kind of touched on that a little bit. This is how we were raised. But now, yeah, you learn more recipes, and you can do it in so many different ways. You can come to a retreat like Jacki did. You can join a group like Jacki did. And I've joined a group before, and Jill has too. And you can look online, and there's so many online resources, whether it's Pinterest or our website has some great recipes on it. There's a lot of resources out there that if you really want to just add more plants and fiber and cancer fighting foods and health promoting foods to your diet, there's a lot of really beautiful ways to do that. Without just feeling like you have to eat salad all the time, because that's not going to keep you motivated. You'd have to really, really, really like to just eat salad all the time. It's an exploration, and it's kind of exciting. You just start exploring these new recipes, and barbecue jackfruit. I mean, that's a great dish. Right?
I think that's one of the reasons I came on your retreat, because I couldn't eat another salad. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. I still can't, although I did, when I saw a video of someone doing, I forget who it was, but one of the many online was doing a chop salad. And then I discovered those choppers, and I've got videos of me learning what this, is it mezzaluna chopper or something like, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's one of those and she was just chopping, and that kind of, when you chop all these different things up, it doesn't look like a salad anymore. It almost looks like a bowl, like a Buddha bowl or something. And so that looked good to me. But yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that, because salads are very difficult for me, because how many salads can you eat? And I have to just to maybe segue into the plant retreat. And then if you guys want to add more things about, how your personal benefits you've received, please. So, I have this with me all the time. This is the notebook that I got from the retreat. And inside has, this is actually my Bible now, because when I come up, there, recipes in sleeves, plastic sleeves, which is great, because when I have the recipe on the counter, I just can't believe I'm hearing myself say this, because as I just, even 3 months later, 3.5 months later, I still can't believe I'm saying recipe in the same sentence that I cook, but it gets dirty and you can just wipe it off. So as I get new recipes, I've ordered new sleeves. I use this notebook, whereas, but my point is, I came home and I just couldn't wait after the delicious food that you served us at that retreat. That's why, if you see my video, I just went food shopping. I went, I should, it was my own fault. I should have sat down and spent more time, looking at the meals, but I think I just went straight to the shopping list. And I just bought all these things thinking I was able to use all those things with the recipes, but there are so many recipes. And every time I got to a recipe, I was missing at least 1 or 2 ingredients. I'm like, I can't make that. But that was my little breakdown in the car in my early on videos. But I just couldn't wait to get to these recipes, because every single bite at your retreat was phenomenal, was delicious. And I think that's why I've been able to stick to this, because I too am a food addict. I have been in Overeaters Anonymous for a very long time, almost 20 years. And so I'm glad Jill mentioned the higher power thing, because it's just like with AA, any 12-step program, any addiction, I've learned that the only solution, if you have that addiction, is, having a higher power, the 12 steps, whatnot. So I've been able to have that, but the food, even though the addiction was kind of released, I was still gaining weight and I wasn't healthy. And I'm not going to tell my story, because we're not here to tell my story, but that's why I went on this retreat. I'm like, what's going on? This does not compute that. And it was because of all the food I was eating. Even if I wasn't sitting down and having binging on cookies, I was eating animal products and oils and dairy, lots of dairy. And I would go out and order, I think I thought I was like keto, I was eating all that meat and chicken and whatever, thinking, but that wasn't working for me. Digestive issues started happening, For some people it does. Don't get me wrong. Whatever we say here today, this is just what works for us. Everything works for other people. But I just couldn't get over the food that you served us, that you helped us, that you guided us to cook as well and prepare as well. And I'm so glad you had me squeeze out the jackfruit. Meanwhile, what's jackfruit? Never knew what jackfruit was. And I was glad you had me squeeze it out, because when I bought the jackfruit, because I was able to do it myself, I knew what to do here. And I just have to add one thing. I was reading a recipe somewhere recently, and in the recipe said dried chickpeas. I didn't even know there was such a thing. I thought I had to get my chickpeas in cans. Okay, so I'm still learning. So let's talk more about this retreat, or anything else you want to add. Jill, is there anything else that came to mind that you might want to add in about how whole food plant-based has affected your life, or do you want to go right into telling a little bit about the retreat, your classes, anything at all?
Well, I'm still aware that as someone who eats this way, I'm not always, I'm not part of the majority. And there's just some sort of, at this point, I feel really blessed by that. I don't want to be part of the majority, and it's people I really love and care about in my family don't eat like this. My husband doesn't, and that's okay. He's on his journey. And I don't nag, and I don't, we just make it work, and we each do our things. But I just so feel blessed. I just want to relay that to, you and anyone watching, that for some reason, this lifestyle has transformed me in and out. It's transformed everything over time. And I've become more compassionate. And Jackie, I heard you mention that. I can look animals in the eye, and I'm just not participating in eating dead things. And, people don't want to hear you say you're eating a dead animal, but let's be realistic. It's dead animals. And that's not such a politically correct thing to say, but it's the truth. I eat living foods, or foods that were living and just, recently picked or whatever, or dried beans. Anyway, it's, I don't know if I should have said that out loud, but
No, nobody watches this anyways. It's fine. Okay. But you said something that made me, I just wanted to chime in when you said like the meat, all my doctors told me I was supposed to eat meat. I was diagnosed with adrenal burnout years ago because I was an avid cyclist and I was a runner. I was doing all those things. And then I just got tired, and they told me I needed to eat meat. That's what they told me. And I thought I was doing the right thing by eating all that meat.
Sure.
And now I don't eat it at all. But anyways, okay, so I just wanted to chime that in.
Yes. And yeah. I did learn early on that from Dr. Anthony Ademas, who wrote a wonderful curriculum for children, and it involved getting the kids active and playing with the foods, and then they would want to eat it. And so our retreat really is geared for, being a participant and working with the foods and touching and feeling and smelling and chopping and stirring, and just having a higher level of comfort and ownership over the meal. Most people are more likely to enjoy the food if they've participated in making the food. So one of the goals of our retreats also is to encourage people to come together with friends and family, and maybe not do all the work, but if you do the shopping and you know what the menu is and you have the stuff available, then you could be the director and hand people the knife and a cutting board. And most people are happy to help. And it's just such a fun experience to cook together. Every retreat we have fun. People love it. So
and I just want to add, and then I want Kathy to chime in. I'm glad you said that, because I want people to know what I loved about the retreat is that I did not have to do a lot of cooking. Jill was wonderful. When I wanted to sign up, she, called me up and answered all my questions because, I'm a texter, but she called me because that was one. I'm like, wow, she's calling me and asking if I have any questions. And I want to know, am I going to be cooking or being served? Because I needed to learn. But I didn't want to do too much either. I mean, it's my retreat.
You didn't have to do too much.
I mean, and that's what I love. The balance was amazing. So I just want people to know, if you're thinking about this retreat, you're not sitting there cooking and cleaning. Like, we didn't have to clean a dish. Some of us did just to be nice, because these two were working their butts off. But they loved it. They cooked and you guys worked so hard. And so I really felt like I was being pampered to or catered to, but yet I still learned and I still participated, just like you said. So yeah. And so Kathy, what would you like to add?
I think just one thing I wanted to follow up that I didn't say it at the time is that that doctor who told me to drink Metamucil and take this medication and all those antibiotics that I took for years, I take nothing. And I'm 54 years old. I am on no prescription medication. I don't take any supplements other than vitamin B and D. I'm pretty happy about that because, at age 34, 20 years ago, I'm being told, well, you may have to take this medication forever. And I don't have the digestive issues that I had when I was going through that. And I don't have most of the health issues that I was having at age 34. I don't get sinus infections ever. I can't think of, and I've been on this journey plant-based for, I think it's been 16 years now. And I can't even remember the last time I needed an antibiotic other than for like an injury type of thing. So, not everybody has all of the same progress and disease prevention and everything, but this will impact your health, and I have experienced that. Jill has experienced that. Our skin cleared up, like the acne and stuff, like our hair was stronger, our nails were healthier. All the things that would indicate health came from eating these whole foods. And you can look online on other people. There are thousands of testimonies like this of changing your diet this way and experiencing all the benefits of disease prevention and reversal in many cases of heart disease, stroke, diabetes, things that are our top killers in this country, especially. You can see hope in eating this way. You can see hope for your health in eating this way. It might be some progress, it might be a ton of progress, and it does depend on how much you put yourself into this too. Any progress you make towards adding fiber and these whole foods to your diet is going to give you an advantage. If you go all in, you're going to see much more improvement than if you just go a little bit in, but a little bit is better than not at all. And so I would just encourage everybody to consider that and do it at your pace, but at some point consider doing it.
Well, and that's why I wanted to have you both on and that's why I've started these interviews. You guys are my second. Colin was my first. Colin McCullough, author of the Healthy Vegan Cookbook, and the reason being is that's what has kept me going. Is just hearing these stories, how it has benefited other people, and that is the key. And watching those documentaries. And one little tip I loved hearing, I don't know if it was Dr. Clapper, but one of those doctors or somebody said, don't think about taking away food, think about adding to it. Add more vegetables, add more fruit. So forget about giving up your cheese or giving up your whatever. Just add some things to it that are plant-based. And then the rest will take care of itself. So I liked that little tip. But listen, we could talk forever and ever. I love seeing you guys. You have become my friends. And I know that even after the retreat, you kept in touch and you're very concerned. And oh, one more thing is, if anybody is considering, or forget about considering the retreat, you have wonderful videos on your YouTube channel, I believe, or your website, where you interview people the last day. And I love watching those, because basically you're asking them, how did this retreat, how are you going to change your life now? And so those are wonderful stories. Where can they find those videos? Is it YouTube or your website or both?
That's where you
On
figure-
our YouTube, on our YouTube channel, you can find it on Plant Life Journey on our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, because we do post videos there occasionally, as well as recipes and other tips in nutrition. Sometimes Jill will do a yoga video or something like that. So I would highly encourage, if you can check us out on Instagram, it's plant.life.journey, as opposed to, have the little periods in there. And on Facebook, it's Plant Life Journey.
And on YouTube, it's Plant Life Journey.
Plant Life Journey. Yeah.
Great. And I'll put that in the description as well. Well, thank you both. We can do this again in a couple months. Maybe we'll come back and do another interview, but thank you both for being here. I'm going to end the recording. So just bear with me, and then I'll, let's get
for
off
having
Facebook Live.
Yeah. Thanks for having us, Jackie.
You're
we
welcome.
really have so
You're
much
welcome.
love for you. Yeah.
Oh, me too. I mean, how do I do